up with different ways to collect items and trade them. And at that time, I was also working on some side projects working on standards around identity and kind of like a social graph for a lot of these experiences. And it just seemed like a really good thing to collaborate on. And I know that there's a number of you in this space that are also working on similar things for your own experiences. So I think it made a lot of sense for us to try and get all these people together and try and hash out how we can work together on some of these interoperability points. So far, I know there's been a Notion doc which we can share around with some high-level ideas of how we might go about specifying some of those things. It's all very rough right now. We're looking at existing standards, including like some from the W3C, including decentralized identifiers, ActivityPub, Matrix, all sorts of different things. There's all sorts of existing specs out there that are good things to base our work on top of. But there's also probably some new things that we'll have to create. And in this sort of meeting, we can kind of go into a little bit of what ideas people are exploring and kind of different pathways that we might be able to follow to like come up with some of these standards. So we're all here because we want an open, interoperable metaverse, and we want to help shape the future of that metaverse. We're going to do that by creating standards for interoperability. And to do that, we can work with existing standards groups such as W3C, Chronos, DIF, which is the Decentralized Identity Foundation. Awesome. Ben?
Hi, everybody. This is Ben Irwin. I'm the creator of the Poly Awards, and I've got an announcement to make that the Poly's team is back together, and we are going to be hosting the first WebXR Developer Summit hosted by Trevor Flowers on May 25th. That hasn't been announced yet, so you are among the first to actually know about it, and I'm very pleased to bring you that news, and I would love to get with this crowd outside of the context of this meeting to talk about what you would like to see happen there.
Amazing.
Awesome. Brian, you ready? Brian, would you like to introduce yourself? Just tell us.
Oh, sure. Sorry about that. I just popped in. Sure. So I'm Brian. I run Project North Star, which is an open source augmented reality headset. Just pretty cool. So I'm super excited about open source and really making the future something that's not owned by a single company. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions about that. I'm more than happy to spend some time chatting about it. So
awesome. Cause?
Hey everyone, I'm Austin Kane, otherwise known as Cause in the VR world. I'm a world builder, a developer, and I've actually been in the crypto space for about 5 years myself, currently working on a cross-platform sort of social media linked way to move cryptocurrency between friends easily. So I'd like to talk to more people about that for sure.
Cool. Christy?
Yeah, hey.
Sorry, who was just talking? Was that?
That was me. Hello.
Cause.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey everyone, I'm Christy, also a world builder for VR worlds, and I'm also an instructional media producer at my university, getting our medical student curriculum kind of into the future, incorporating XR simulations into medical curriculum. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Dimitri?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dimitri. I'm very much a newbie in the VR space, but I do work on a lot of the tech. that is being proposed in the Notion document. So I'm part of the Decentralized Identifier Working Group, several W3C working groups, community groups. I'm part of DIF. I worked on the ActivityPub and the other social web protocols. I do a lot of both standards development and hands-on JavaScript library development. So, for example, I'm the co-chair of the confidential storage working group at DIF, which does secure encrypted storage, which I hope to interest the VR community in, since it's an open standard and it's very relevant to everybody's interests. And I work with the XR engine team to implement some of the stuff like universal cross-browser wallet, cross-domain authentication, that sort of stuff on XR engine. So I'm super excited to talk open standards with everybody and super excited to learn about the VR stuff.
Awesome. All right. Well, are you there?
Dietitian?
Yeah.
He's unmuted, but we can't hear you. Typing.
Okay. Well, we're gonna get back to you, but we gotta get through these things. Okay, so Duke.
Hello, I'm a game designer, and I had a similar project to Mozilla Hubs for a while, and it was specifically for working from home, but I dropped that in the meantime. Mozilla Hubs is like very, very slow and not really good for actually doing anything practical. And I'm curious about how people see the definition of an open metaverse itself, because the discussion is very interesting for the concept of a metaverse, and I don't really see how that ties into the open bit. Like, it's easy for me to define an open search engine, for example, but an open metaverse, I don't really know exactly what people would see, so I'm very curious to see that.
Could we start with that definition?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna send out a survey, so everyone's gonna be able to fill in their own sort of definition for the metaverse and stuff like that, because I think that's gonna be like a very big open question. But when we move off of intros, we can dive into that first in an open setting too. I just want to make sure that everyone has like both their own time to really describe what they think, and then when we get into the conversation, we're gonna have to, like, not everyone's gonna get time to say everything. So
Yep, good idea.
We will do both. All right, Frederick. And try and keep these a little bit short so that we can get to everyone and move on to other topics. But we definitely want to hear from everyone.
Hello, can you hear me, guys?
Yep.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm Frederick Hellberg. Together with Lara Lesmus is also here in the room. We're architects, but we build a lot of spaces, virtual spaces, both for cultural institutions and museums, but also increasingly for clients. And a few years ago, after having used Sansar and VR Chat and other platforms, we decided to use Mozilla Hubs exclusively, mainly because of the sort of almost civic set out that Mozilla Hubs have, and the sort of open source way of looking at things. And we're currently working on 3 to 4 different spaces, again, for both cultural institutions and also commercial clients. Great to be here.
Awesome. Future
Hey.
Meme.
Yes, so I'm Future. I founded TurboSquid 20 years ago, the first digital asset marketplace. Been focused on education for the last 15 years, and specifically my project is Super Reality. It's a decentralized global kind of classroom using XR, VR, AR, kind of creating neural networks of everything. And the XR engine is our backbone as well. So excited that you guys are doing this. This is great.
Awesome. Gabe?
Hey y'all, Gabe here from Frame. I'm the founder and product manager of the Frame team. Frame's a browser-based
collaboration platform, part of a company called Virbela that's part of a publicly traded entity. Great to be here.
All right. Humble Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm a lifelong developer and technologist. I come from a background working half a decade with one of the native platforms, High Fidelity. And right now I'm very interested in interconnections, both between technology and people, like helping businesses and organizations match with Metaverse technology. So.
Awesome. I don't know how to pronounce the next username, but you can go.
Heather, you're up.
Hi, my name is Heather, and I am part of the Angel XR team, formerly of Pluto VR, and currently at a virtual therapeutics company. So just really excited for the ability for us to all work as a community to create the metaverse together, and project product manager by trade.
Awesome. Jen?
Hello. I've been working on decentralized tech for about a decade, VR and crypto, 7 years. I do a lot of interoperability research, just basically hands-on, like how things move between different platforms, avatars and things. My VRM research influenced several projects to implement it. And I work with Avier on Webverse, and I'm really interested in all this stuff. Basically, there's a working group that we founded a couple of years ago called M3, which I'd love to talk about sometime, but it was all about interoperability, open metaverse meetup. And
yeah, it feels like this is M3 like V2.
Yeah. So that's me.
Awesome. We're gonna go back to Will. Will, do you have your mic working now?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, hey, so this is Will Murphy, currently with Immerspace. We're a Grant for the Web flagship project, which is applying the ActivityPub W3C standard for federated decentralized social graph to WebXR immersive worlds with the flagship with like a reference implementation in hubs with a chess game.
Awesome. D-Brain, would you like to go?
Okay. Yeah, sorry, took me a second there. I'm Deepbrain, or Alex. I work on Dancing Meshes, one of my main products. It's an animation tool for VR. And another project is Meta Launcher, which is kind of an app launcher for the Quest, for Steam VR and so on. So it reads your library and creates like this small suburban neighborhood. It's supposed to have like social features integrated, so you're automatically online joining and so on. And I hope to launch it quite soon, like in the next few months. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. And I use Unreal Engine mostly as my platform. And yeah, I'm interested in this topic for about 5-6 years now, and into VR since about 10 years. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, Jesse James.
Hello, I'm a product designer by trade and part of the Angel XR group.
Awesome. Karen?
Hi there. I'm Karen Alexander. I am an educator and community builder. I'm one of the leaders of the XR Women group that meets on the iLearn campus in Virbela every Wednesday. And I'm working with Ben Irwin.
Awesome. Lara?
Hi, I'm Lara Lesmes. I'm trained as an architect. I run the practice Space Popular together with Frederick, where we build physical buildings, but also a lot of virtual spaces. And we teach at both University of Toronto and the Architecture Association in London, where we run studios with architecture students on basically how to understand the practice of an architect in the virtual realm. Really excited that you guys are doing this and to see what you guys have to share. Thank you.
Awesome. Liam?
Hey, I'm Liam Broza. I founded XR Engine with Dimitri and Shaw and Nick and a bunch of others on people. I'm really interested in identity, especially as it pertains to a digital memory that you could pull on and use to power apps, and really how this allows us to build agents and do machine learning and computer vision as it pertains to an open metaverse standard and interfaces and data and all that and social interactions. So excited to learn more.
Awesome. Liuma?
Hi, yeah, I'm Liuma. I work on the Visakai project. We aim to bring Metaverse tech to the Godot engine, which is one of the few desktop engines that's completely open source, MIT licensed from the ground up. So as an alternative to Unity and Unreal, which are common solutions today.
Awesome. Michelle?
Hello, my name's Michelle. I've been involved in high fidelity software for quite a long time. I'm mainly I was mainly a filmmaker from the start, but I've been involved with virtual environment, virtual world for a very long time now. And we've had discussions on this topics that you guys have been discussing recently, and we're very interested in getting the interconnecting working really well at this point and bring things forward. It helps everybody out in the end. So that's why I'm here. That makes it clear.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Microchip GNU.
Hello, my name is Louis. I also go by the name Microchip New, actually. I've been working as a VR developer, VR developer for a bit. Also very interested in the NFT space for like 3 years now. And I'm currently working on a NFT minting platform, and we're very excited about integrating NFTs in virtual worlds. And as a side thing, I've been researching and trying ways to make transactions inside WebXR in the browser. So I have one experiment with fungible tokens on an A-frame setting, and I'm really excited about this for the future of WebXR.
Awesome. Mr. Metaverse?
Hey everybody, I have notes. Otherwise, for those of you who've worked with me, you know I can talk. So I am Jesse Alton. I work mostly in civic tech. My background's actually in a lot of startups, particularly business development and product. I'm here because I genuinely believe in collaboration and choosing to work together. Angel was founded to be a community to support things like the OMI. So odds are I'm probably your biggest fan on Twitter if you're here. And yeah, I'm just honored to be in the room with all of you. Thanks.
Awesome. Ponder Jaunt.
Hi guys, name's Ponder. I'm very interested in NFTs, come from the crypto space, specifically focused on technologies like Interledger and Rippled. So more so the interoperability of payments in metaverse spaces.
Cool. QK?
Hi guys, my name is Quinn Madsen. I was a developer at 3Data, which was a WebXR data science platform. Now I'm working on the Emmerspace project with Will Murphy, which was basically using ActivityPub and hubs together to be able to create friends, have an inventory, and play chess games all in WebXR.
Cool. I'm Robert Long. I previously worked on the Hubs team until just a couple weeks ago when I left to kind of explore more metaversey projects. I'm working on just some side projects and this full time for the next 3 months. And yeah, before that I was at Altspace. I'm a developer, primarily web developer, but I've also worked on the GLTF standards. Tried leading a Oculus Quest jailbreak, which hasn't gone very well, and I don't know, a lot of different things in this space. Ron?
Hey everyone, my name is Ronak. Part of the Angel XR team as well. I just have to acknowledge so many awesome people that are here. I'm a QA engineer by trade. Been doing a lot of crypto trading platform testing, usually JavaScript stuff, and this I'm basically an aspiring XR dev and just kind of been watching all of you guys for the past 5 years doing amazing things, and just looking forward to learn and kind of contribute. Yep, that's all.
Cool. Sarah?
Hello, yes, I'm Saracen. I also work on the vSeco project for Godot, which is like an open source implementation of like metaverse like stuff for the Godot engine. I thought this talk would be pretty interesting because one of the big milestones we reached recently was support for the VRM spec. So we are quite interested in interoperability stuff.
Cool. Shaw?
Hey, my name's Shaw. I'm an architect on XR Engine. I contribute to Webverse, and I'm around. I know a lot of these people.
Spiral?
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm an educator in Alaska. I was just kind of introduced to hubs recently at a conference by Anthony. I don't know, I've always been really interested in kind of like VR tech. I'm a big fan of, I guess, Sword Art Online, which was kind of I guess, a possibility. And I think there's a lot of really kind of great applications, that this stuff can be used for in the future, especially in the realm of education. So I'm just.
I think a bunch of us just got excited when you said Sword Art Online.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
All right, Trevor?
Hey everyone, yeah, I'm Trevor Flowers. I'm the principal at Transmutable, which is an XR hardware and software studio in Seattle. I used to work with Robert at Mozilla, but I was the product manager for Firefox Reality, RIP. I started working with VRML in 1995, so I've seen a couple of these waves come and go. I used to chair the W3C working group when we made the WebXR device API standard. Currently the editor of that group's Immersive Web weekly newsletter. Yeah, I mostly work on open hardware these days, including a project for trustworthy AR glasses.
Awesome. Tylo?
Hi, my name's Tyler. I am a C# developer who mostly, for the last 10 years or so, has been working in Unity, but not in the video game space, more like the applications for companies who happen to need like a 3D engine to do what they want to do. And my interest in metaverses has come from just playing mass multiplayer MMOs since I was a kid. Started with MUDs, went into Ultima Online, then went from there. But to me, also the sandbox feel of MMOs feels like a proto sort of like first run at metaverses to me. And I've been interested in them ever since, and I'm really interested to see how connected people's different implementations of metaverses can be if there's like a standard communication where you can transfer some stuff between them. So that's why I'm
awesome. Cool. Exariel?
Hey, I'm Last, keeping it quick. I've been an immersive brand designer and pivoted to founding my own VR company for performance tools in 2015, and I'm now the lead host and acting consultant for a company called Adventure Lab, and I also host live events on Mozilla Hubs with a company called Active Replica for architectural schools, and I've also been teaching acting for colleges on Hubs, and I'm looking to develop the immersive and personal side of bringing performers into VR metaverse environments. Thanks.
Cool. I think we missed one. Mr. In Reality, if you want to give us a quick background. Oh, I don't think we can hear you. All right. I think we're gonna move on then. So, wow, we have like a lot of different people with all sorts of different backgrounds, a lot of different platforms, a lot of creators. This is great. I was kind of worried that we were going to have like a pretty developer-centered audience to start, but it's good to see that we have a whole bunch of different voices being represented here. So with that, I think what Avery was saying previously, getting to a definition of the metaverse is a good start. I don't think that we're going to completely come to agreement there, but why don't we try to have a little bit of a general answer there so that we can kind of scope our work to that. So Avery, do you wanna start?
Sure, I guess. To me, it feels like I've been around long enough in this space that I've seen like a lot of these waves come and go. Like I tried to start a group that was doing almost exactly the same thing called M3 several years ago. The main reason that it didn't stick around is because there was one part that was missing out of the metaverse, and like this comes back to the definition. And for me, it's like there was no value loops being actually closed by people being interoperable, by people building virtual worlds that work together. So to me, like the metaverse is almost like a virtual world or some sort of permeating digital presence that's everywhere and that's infinitely interoperable. And I know that's like a really wishy-washy term. But so far, like within the last couple of years, I think the best light or like the best inspiration has been like what's been happening in the crypto space. Which is why like I think NFTs possibly are a really good ingredient for the metaverse, because they're a way for value loops to be closed between creators and patrons and all sorts of other people, in a way that is inherently interoperable, because you want your crypto art, you want your NFTs, you want your digital objects to kind of carry with you. And everybody wants that to happen. Everybody wants to put in millions of dollars into making that happen. And yeah, now is kind of like an exciting time where I feel like a lot of people are realizing the value loops there are necessary. And I think like we should probably be starting there rather than trying to define standards. Like in fact, I was on the WebXR W3C group and I was trying to get through like standards changes, and like that wasn't enough as an open source project. Nobody actually cares unless there's money involved, and that's why like it's really hard to define like what the metaverse is. But yeah, I think it's definitely just like about interoperability, people being incentivized to work together, people whose job it is to come to work every day and make this stuff work. Like for example, I got a WebXR running on the Magic Leap device despite $1 billion companies efforts to basically not make that happen. I just kind of hacked it in together. So that was just me. I did this similar thing for CryptoVoxels. I did a similar thing for Decentraland, and I did a similar thing for VRChat even, where I just basically made web clients for all of these things. So you can walk from CryptoVoxels to Decentraland, carry over your inventory. And I got relatively far in VRChat as far as actually loading worlds. And of course, like VRM format avatars can be loaded. This is something that I have done basically not being paid, just because I'm passionate about it. So I don't think like technology or standards are actually the problems. Like if one person can do all this stuff, like I think we just need to get off our butts and we need to figure out ways to be paid to actually do it. I'm just very fortunate that I don't actually have to be paid to do it. But
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of the things that you're saying. One thing that I would like to kind of shoot back against is though that like one person can do all this sort of stuff. I think we have a lot of different people working on a lot of different pieces of this puzzle, a lot of different ways of creating their sort of vision of the metaverse here. And the purpose of this group it will be to come to agreements on pieces that we can do together to make all these things sort of work together. So with Webverse, there is definitely some common ground that we can find on some of the standards that you're defining there. There's a lot of these projects that that people are developing here that could definitely use some of the same work there. So
yeah, I would actually say like the opposite. Like the goal of everything that I'm trying to do is like to basically disappear into the ether so that like all of my stuff is no longer relevant. I think all of the standards that need to exist for the metaverse to come to fruition are already out there. We just need to pick and choose the right ones and connect them together.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. That there's a lot of existing work that we can definitely stand on top of. That we don't have to build all this stuff from scratch. And I really hope that that's not the case. Okay, let's get someone else. It'd be great if we could like get people in the chat to like use a raised hand emoji or something like that if they'd like to talk next.
I'd be particularly interested in like a non-developer's perspective.
Yeah, same.
I am a non-developer, and I will gladly throw in my perspective. So when I hear metaverse and when I hear like, so when we're talking about the definition of the metaverse, it's one. There's one metaverse, and you'll see my like language that I choose to use on Twitter at times is to pander to the concept of metaverses with the S, and it's not necessarily an acceptance of there are multiple metaverses. There is one, but rather to a kind of a point that Avir was making, like we have to be we have to kind of meet some folks where they are in order to bring them where we want to go. So like it can't just be built by developers. And as in the current state of the metaverse, the only way it's actually accessible by you is if you are a developer. And we can talk about this for the rest of the day about how that's not true. But even as someone who I spend every day learning something in code, that's my passion. That's what I want to learn, but it's not what I do, and it's not accessible for someone like me. And so I know it's not accessible for someone like my partner or like my mother or like most of my friends, right? Um, so as somebody who has been looked at as completely crazy for 8 years, and I'm sure all of you are in this boat, right? When you try to talk to, I don't know, normies, I don't know, what do we call people who don't care about this stuff? When you try to talk to them about it, you lose them. But where you get people excited is when you start talking about the metaverse, in that imagine connecting all digital experience. You know, MMOs, I think that's a great exemplar, right? Like imagine if it was all connected. Like it all is. The metaverse is all of it. Social media is a part of it, in my opinion. I think anything, the apps on your phone that are non-XR have the potential to be integrated and part of it. And so I think if we kind of, instead of we're developers all building this, and it's a good thing that we have a diverse group here, but instead if we put it around that user, I think the metaverse is a user-centered, free-flowing, borderless, wall-less exploration of everything that's digital and how it connects with what's real. So that's my thought. What do you think?
You said orderless. What does that mean?
Orderless. I don't think that's the word I chose, but I'd like to get to the bottom of it. Can you provide context?
Oh, I just thought that's the word you used.
Yeah, it's something that sounded like that might have came out, but hopefully I didn't confuse anybody.
Maybe he meant odorless. I mostly agree with what Mr. Metaverse said. This needs to be user centric, and I feel like there's a lot of I don't want to be rude, but I want to say wishy-washy definitions and words being thrown around. I don't think this is going to be anything more mystical than the internet, for example. Like if somebody were to have described the internet in the 1930s or something, you would probably get the same feeling of, oh yeah, everything's gonna be interconnected and we're gonna be closer to God. Everything's we're all gonna be one mind. But when the internet actually happened, it's a tool. We're gonna use a tool. So I think the metaverse is going to be that sort of thing where we're kind of imagining a lot of different directions, but we sort of need to talk about some practical applications so that we can ground the discussion. So what do we actually mean when we want to say we have an application in the metaverse? Um, Currently we have the metaverse on the internet, and it's not like that exciting. It's just you can send links to one another, right? If we have several apps in the metaverse, we can travel from one to the other, but we can already do that in the Oculus, for example. You can just switch apps. Like I'm really wondering about the practical definition of what can you do with a metaverse that you can't do by just switching apps.
Oh,
Right,
yeah,
right.
that's
I
a
really like that
question.
idea that like the metaverse is something that you can only see in retrospect.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Could I try a formal definition? Like, if that's kind of what we're going for, like, it's the way I see it is the difference between what the metaverse is and what we have now, and we can define these properties, but like a perfect one is, I would like to form a party with me and my 3 friends, and we go to virtual Amazon and virtual Target and virtual Walmart and go pick out furniture in the virtual world. And then in the real world, we go to my living room and we all have different headsets and a phone on and decide, hey, we want a conference table, and we should match the colors of the room and be the size of the room. And I can go to, spatial Amazon, spatial IKEA, and we can pick and choose a bunch of objects to buy in the room. And there's an interoperability layer that allows something like that to happen. Like my friends list, my avatar, my tagging, all of this is as universal as it is in the browser.
Surely you just need a wallet, don't you? I mean, if you're just going to buy something.
Yeah, I mean,
You
payments
need
and
a wallet.
inventory and all of
Yeah,
this
you need a
stuff.
wallet, and you need it to work, and you need the
Yeah.
virtual world to support like your party system. So when I hear like visions like that, first of all, I agree. Like I think once that is like a really well-oiled engine, and we can all do that seamlessly, we're probably like approaching metaverse. But when I hear things like that, it's just like, who is building that, and who's paying them, and why are they getting up every day to like fix bugs in the metaverse? I think like that's the most important question that we need to answer, because like without that, like I don't think we can have a project on the scale of the internet where everybody's just kind of like, hey, this would kind of be cool to work on today. I'll work a little bit on this, and then like nothing really comes together, and everybody has a day job. I feel like the metaverse is actually going to come out of like left field, out of something like crypto art, where it's got a lot of the same properties in terms of the social graph and the social connections that it enables, and the values that it allows people to kind of exchange, and the products and experiences that like people keep coming back for. I don't think it's necessarily going to be metaversey from the beginning, but I think like a lot of metaversey properties are going to supercharge it. And then we're going to look back in 10 years and realize, yep, it was actually that. And that was the most important part to actually getting the metaverse started.
I have to jump in there. I have to say, yeah, like it's part of that meeting people where they are. That I have friends that again know nothing about code, but know what an NFT is now, and they're super excited about it. But we also know, and the elephant in the room with the NFTs is we know that there's a certain bubble that is going to form or that has formed already around that, and so it's going to by product puts a bad taste in some of the, again, I hate this term, but like normies opinions of this whole thing. I would be remiss though if I didn't say, like, I think NFTs are only half of it. I think that there's a huge open potential here for users that is non-owned, in that we don't need to mint every mug and every table. Some people might just want to contribute the entire asset list from that game they made in 2004 to an
Right.
open repo. And so finding a way to use both, I think would be a huge advantage for any products or apps or anything that our companies build using this OME, right? Like, again, I definitely want to call that out too. We're talking about that standard and coming together so that we can deliver better value propositions to our users, and maybe your mission is to change the world, and we can do that if we come together. But nobody should feel like they have to take away from their business model or how you're putting food on the table to do that. We can lift each other up and achieve this protocol without sacrificing the promises that you've made your investors or any of that stuff. And that's part of meeting people where they are. I'm sorry, I'll end this soon. If we want people to get behind this, like, I think, yeah, again, I shall circle it back to Avir's point. If we want we want to bring people into this. We want to bring users into this. We could build the coolest, most connected metaverse ever and have only 0.1% of the world population ever even touch it. Meeting people where they are and kind of bringing them into the fold based on whatever they get excited by. So maybe they're an artist, or maybe they live in a developing nation and they're making money right now off of NFTs. Like, that's really happening right now, and that is bringing people into our fold. Those are the types of things that we want to continue to drive to open up the pool, I guess.
A couple of interesting points there. The thing that's happened in crypto
Hey,
is kind of
Aver,
yeah.
I want to give some other people some
Yeah,
time
sorry.
to talk. Sorry about that. Who's up? Will?
Wait, so in the general chat, there's discussion. Can we moderate the speaking stack on the chat channel? And Datatition has volunteered to maintain the stack. So I was wondering if we could switch to that.
Yes.
Trevor is up.
Okay, thank you. Also, thank you for switching to important in these groups, especially. We're all kind of good at talking over each other, so I really appreciate that we're using this this pattern of letting other people weigh in as they need to. That said, yeah, I think so. As someone who's seen a few waves of this, I think one of the things that is very effective, of course, is to pull out a section of the big chunk of work, like payments is an example. You know, there's efforts like the web payments APIs, and those are moving forward really quickly. You get a lot of sort of industry support behind them, and then they sort of slot into the bigger picture of what a metaverse is. So I would encourage us to say something like, you know, here's the grand vision. Here are some of the components of the metaverse that we all generally agree on, or we know where we disagree on, and then pull apart pieces of those and create working groups and things. And that's sort of what standards bodies do, but obviously we can do that outside of the context of standards bodies. So my second point in that is that when we're talking about interop, I have found sort of a 3-point idea for what interop means that's been helpful for me. Maybe it'll be helpful for this group. The first one is that interop is sort of the first thing we usually think of, which is open technical standards from independent standards bodies. And so W3C, for example, is not fully run by Google or Facebook or Apple. You know, it has problems of being captured in certain ways by megacorps, but it is an independent body. So that's the first thing we think of when we think about interop. The second big thing, which most people don't immediately think of, but is incredibly important, is protection from intellectual property attacks. So most of these standards bodies, what they do is to sign up, you basically have to agree that you won't sue someone for using these standards. If you're going to contribute and be a part of the standard, you say, our huge patent libraries will not be wielded against someone. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is compatibility with a variety of goals. Yeah, the hypercorps don't agree with each other because they're competing with each other. The governments don't agree with each other because they're competing with each other. And then we all have kind of different social ideas about what it means to be in a metaverse. So we have to have sort of competing goals that are supported by some or all of these interoperabilities. So those are the 3 things that I think it would be useful to keep in mind as we talk about how to actually make things interoperate. And that's me.
Jim is up next in stack.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of interoperability experiments, and I can just like post some pictures. Just for example, like people how to bring their avatar across worlds by converting them to VRM, and also how to bring your stuff with you across different virtual worlds. I've done this for like maybe half a dozen different platforms. I'll just like drop in a couple pictures into the general chat for you to see. Like over there, I brought crypto voxels all permissionlessly to VR Chat, Neos VR, Janus XR, Substrata, and I've also brought like my home space across 4 different WebXR platforms: Webaverse, Janus, CryptoVoxels, Hubs, etc. And doing all these experiments has taught me that it's possible, but it's not like people won't care unless they're kind of incentivized to care. So we need to find a way to make it cool to make people like want to actually connect these things.
Dimitri's up.
the eternal hunt for the unmute button. So I want to say big +1 to everything that was said before. I want to highlight one thing that was said, which is the intellectual property protection. I think it's a mistake I see a lot of new standards groups making when they're starting out, because we're all at heart, well, some of us anyways, are anarchists or libertarians or whatever. We're like, intellectual property, no, that's not us, we're going to share. The problem is not that. The problem is patent trolls immediately come in and steal everything. So definitely I encourage, if we're developing standards, to do it using the IPR policies of something like W3C Community Group or Decentralized Identity Foundation. The other thing I wanted to mention real quick is, so I'm new to the Metaverse, but I am part of decentralized social media community, decentralized identity, and all that stuff. And you always hear those two threads of discussion. What do we need? We need interoperable standards, and then what do we need? We need the business model, a way to close loops, way to interest readers. So I want to make sure we say yes and, like, both of those are important. Maybe one group should address both. Maybe two different streams or two different groups should address both. But I think everybody would agree we definitely need both.
Future meme.
Hey guys, yeah, I will quickly just say my piece. I think we can all agree the way the internet's been going has kind of sucked. Walled gardens kind of suck. I think the work that Adrian and Jen do kind of exemplifies the spirit of all of us. You know, we don't need to ask permission anymore, and we all know that the web is going to be what the metaverse is built on. I think our real goal is just to make our shared metaverses the biggest and first. You know, and it's really up to us to build this thing. I mean, I can look around the domains, and we're all kind of in here at this point. So the key word that I think Liam brought up, you know, he said a lot of stuff, and I think we're all saying a lot of stuff, but I think the key word is frictionless. We need to build bridges to each other's worlds. And those bridges need to, you know, carry over our inventories, our user profiles, our friends list. And the reason, the impetus for doing this is to, you know, yeah, we got NFTs now. We have that can get bigger. People will be like, okay, there's a reason for me to join this thing. There's a reason for me to get in there. So I don't know. My actionable plan would be to take the two most established metaverses and try to, you know, everybody noodle on how the best way to make them communicate efficiently with each other. And I do believe NFTs are the key, literally the key, and doorways to do it. I think Shaw can probably talk a little bit more about this, but this is something we've been talking about. So yeah, I'm just excited that this is going on. I know it's failed so many times in the past, but I do feel like we've got an actual economic model to drive it now that wasn't there before. So thank you guys. I'm complete.
Excellent.
Hey, I'm just speaking from a perspective of onboarding people who've never done this before, which I think is really important for mass adoptability. And streamlining is really the main obstacle that we're encountering, is that people on hubs are finding it still very clunky. I know that there are amazing features that the metaverse should have, but I think having a version where somebody who has no familiarity, has never put on a VR headset, can click a link and be in a room and have somebody talking to them is really, really important. So I would love it. Also, you know, I'm looking at Webaverse and XR3 and a bunch of other you know, web-based metaverses, and they all have different features, which I think are really important. I think having VRM avatar standards is really important, so that when somebody shows up, you have a person talking to you, and there is not this, you know, a lot of people don't even play games. They don't even have that in their lexicon. But if there's a person there talking to you to welcome you and show you around, that is really, really strong for retention. That's all. Just people people are turned off very, very quickly when they don't understand what's going on right away. So just making it easier to log on and start using it, I think is really important.
Tyler?
I apologize in advance because I'm probably going to bumble my way through this. I'm not exactly sure how to word it, but I think right now, with the ideas that I've seen and heard of metaverses, look at them from a top-down sort of perspective, where we're all creating our own metaverse that's hosted on our own servers, and we're asking people to come to our metaverse and interact with us. That's how VR chat works. That's how Facebook's building theirs. As far as I know, that's how Mozilla Hubs works too. You go to to that community, and it's hosted on their hardware. And I think it's important for a metaverse to exist in a way similar to how the internet came about, which was skipping the part that the military invented it and universities and stuff, going to the next step where projects like the Apache web server, but a more advanced version of that, because Apache is obviously just sort of like a file server. It's like, here's your files, the computer can handle it from there. But I think a metaverse would need to have a open, I can so that I could just, it would be technical. So this would be tools for producers and not consumers. So I think there needs to be tools for producers to create a place for consumers to come to, and they need to be as free and available as Apache was to people who wanted to just roll their own website. So that and there's a set of features that come with it, like 3D environment rendering, characters, and that's where the open standards would exist, to make it as easy to show a 3D avatar of somebody representing themselves, their identity, as it would be to load a JPEG in a browser right now. And hopefully any of that made sense, and my bumbling is over now.
Thanks. Duke Stroganoff?
Yeah. It still sort of feels to me like we're talking past each other. I mean, maybe it's just me, and if that's the case, carry on. Do we want a decentralized world where every application has its own state and they can communicate states to each other, like websites do right now? Because if that's what we want, that's basically the internet. So why can't VR applications and XR applications communicate through internet protocols? And if that's what we want, what do we want to be more open about it? What's open about the open metaverse that we're imagining? Is the internet a good example of openness here, or is it an example of not very open? Because I've heard both opinions so far in this chat. Like, do we have a specific goal in mind? Do we want to allow people to accrue some assets in one application and transfer them to the other, like 3D assets, and just have the polygons render the same in both applications? Is that the specific goal, or that's what I'm asking? That addition, you can go.
Yeah, if I could jump in just for a second, and then we'll get back to the list. I think that there's going to be a lot of different topics that we're going to have to discuss, NFTs and ownership of items being one of them. I know there's going to be people who are interested in different parts of that. In this survey that I just sent out, I'll repost it again, but it's up the chat a little bit now. There's some areas that I kind of identified that you can mark your interest on. In the future, I think we're going to have to split this up into smaller groups. I think we can organize this Discord with additional channels to discuss all these different topics. But I want to respond to say that I don't think that it's just items that work across different spaces, I think there's a lot of different parts, and so I think we'll get into discussion about all of these.
Thanks, Robert. Okay, I'm up. I've heard mention of like a disappointment with the current state of the web as it's devolved into like centralized walled gardens that are toxic and ad based, and a lot of us are focused on technological solutions to an open metaverse, which are important. But I heard a presentation by an internet artist, some of you may know, Darius Kazemi. It was called "Let's Play and Win Our Own Game," and it was in reference to the Fediverse, which is the federated, decentralized social media networks that run on the ActivityPub protocol. And he talked about being resistant to centralization because the internet is a very decentralized technology, but we've seen it become centralized over time because it benefits the business models that are out there now. And so in order to have a metaverse that actually remains open and doesn't have any one party controlling it and turning it into another attention addiction platform, we need to think about, in addition to just technological pieces, which unfortunately are not resistant to centralization, also like community and design aspects that can make us resistant to it just becoming everything's Facebook horizons, and that's the metaverse. Jen's comment. I'm laughing. Sorry, the metaverse, not that with a D, not the Fat Life metaverse. But anyway, so one of the topics that came up was like community and onboarding, and that's really important. And part of what Darius talked about was having a loosely organized network of many small communities, because at the small community level, we can provide onboarding and we can provide moderation and we can provide a sense of community. And when that's spread over thousands of different nodes in a network, that becomes something that is impossible to convert into a centralized Facebook style network. And so when we think about what we're doing, we do need technological solutions, but we need to think about them in terms of how they can lend themselves to being resistant to centralization. And one way, of course, is making sure that having like standard setting bodies or co-ops or ways that what we're designing here isn't controlled by any one party or any single party having undue influence, but distributing the control and the ownership and the decision making that we do. Next up is Ben Irwin.
Hi, everybody. First, I want to support what Trevor was saying in terms of interoperability and IP. And one of my favorite terms, the one Liam used in terms of frictionless. And I think that one of the analogies that we haven't heard yet here are sort of passports and the difference between going from another country to another state. And we also have two different types of metaverses here. We have the sort of walled garden metaverse, as it's referred to, of apps, and we have the coming web metaverse, the immersive webs metaverse. And if we think of these as sort of, being able to travel in the United States from state to state or from a EU country to another EU country without having to show our passports at the border, at the end of the day, when you're arriving in a place and it needs to have certain security in place and respect for certain standards. So I think that the interoperability is very important. And the sort of Fediverse concept there is that it is essentially states' rights issues. So I think that the focus of having an open metaverse really has to do with finding those common protocols and security standards that can all be respected so that when people move from one to another, then they can do so safely.
Thanks. Spiral's up next.
Hi. Well, hi. It's been really interesting to kind of hear all this conversation and just it's kind of helped me, I guess, as a normie, kind of understand, what it is exactly that you're kind of thinking about and, how to kind of like sell it to, I guess, others who might not know all the kind of background information. So one of the things that I was thinking about, just because, I'm raising two young kids right now, and just how their experiences. And so a lot of ways that I've been introduced to kind of VR and things has been through kind of what their interests are. And so they kind of like, they'll see something on YouTube, they want to do it. And then, and so, yeah. So one of the things that they participate in a lot right now is like Roblox. And, I kind of see that as a type of metaverse where they have like a character, they have an avatar, they have, items that they can buy, and then within that, then they can go into all these other like different little worlds, and all of those things that they bought for their character kind of comes with them. But then it would be kind of neat, like if they have like that one thing that they have in Roblox, but then they were able to like use that same avatar and character and go into things like like their virtual classroom, or they could go to like a virtual movie theater or whatever. And so have that same, I guess, avatar that could like, go to all these different, like, that avatar could go to, the different apps and things. And so, um, I'm probably thinking about it on a more basic level, but I'm just thinking about all of these kids who are kind of being raised like right now, and kind of, they're not going to need a lot of the things like onboarding and things, just because they're probably more apt to a more like sandbox, like just have like a open sandbox area where they can just kind of go and explore and find things, and discover it on their own, and maybe have like people there to kind of guide them if they need help. But I'm just trying to think about like in the future, because the metaverses that we're going to be building now are probably going to be really popular, something in by the time they're in middle school or high school, it's going to be a little bit more like mainstream. And so, we're kind of think everything that you're building now is kind of being for that kind of future audience. And so just, thinking about it from that lens as well. So just my 2 cents from a normie.
Thanks, Viral. Shaw is next.
Can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, I just got a new microphone. So I think that there's sort of 2 problems that we have to solve. I have a bunch of thoughts that I've collected, so I'm just going to go down the list and be very short. There's 2 problems we have to solve. The first one is how we actually move the data around. And then the second one is the data itself. So, interoperability is one, like, let's say we all agree that we're transferring it on this, this transport. We're doing it on TivityPub, or doing it with this wallet or DIDS, whatever. Great. Then we also have to agree, what is the data? I would love it if I could get a ball, for example, and give you that ball, and you could throw it in Hubs, and it would respond with physics in the same way it responds to my thing. But Hubs uses ammo, and XR Engine is moving from canon to PhysX, and Webiverse uses PhysX, and Janus made their own thing, etc. So like, how is physics going to work? Well, I think we just need to define. I think if we just define what that data shape actually looks like, we can figure it out. And so on both of these things, like my view and the view of our team is like, I really, we're just going to do whatever everyone does, because that's how this thing is going to get done, right? It's like, I have no strong opinion. I think all the technology here is great. I think we should be very aware that some technology is very good for private stuff, like wallets, and some things is very good for public stuff, like NFTs and ActivityPub and things. And you can probably run encrypted data over ActivityPub or Matrix or whatever, but I don't know. It seems like it's not the right application. It seems like for private data, you want to give that to people in wallets, and we should think about that, because there's going to be a lot of stuff like, we want this also to be like your real identity and your real information and your health records should be the same technology that is your avatar and your collection of your inventory and all, and your scenes and all that stuff. So I think we all agree that this needs to be built on web technology and web standards. I think which particular web standard it is literally like, let's just call it and do it. I think we'll all be fairly happy. Webiverse already has like a lot of NFT tech built out. Dimitri already has a wallet for DIDS, so on and so forth. Like, a lot of this stuff is actually already pretty far along. And we'll just kind of stick with, I just want to Control C, Control V, because I think that's how we get across the finish line. So yeah, I mean, those are my thoughts. We're here to support whatever. Like Robert, you're taking the helm on something that I think really is needed. Somebody to just be like full time for a couple of months to think about. And so in that regard, like our whole team is just going to support whatever makes sense, whatever you go with.
Well, I don't think I could build the whole thing myself. I'm gonna.
No.
Yeah,
But
I think that, and I don't necessarily want to be seen as like a leader of this sort of movement. I want to see this sort of self-organize and all of that. And I think in about 10 minutes, I'd like to start talking about that side of things too. Oh, too late. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would just last thought is that we're here to support you and with engineers and it's not just like, yeah, cool, go have fun, make a wallet. Like I think we'll put our money where our mouths are on that end. But I think it does need a leader. I actually think it does need somebody who's passionate about this, who can make it get carried across the finish line, and it's not just like a thing that dies in committee. I'm sure Adrian agrees with this because I feel like we talk about this all the time. So anyway.
Thanks. So with time running out, there's 3 people on the stack, but I believe that Future Meme and Avier have both spoken already in this discussion. If y'all wouldn't object, I'd recommend we bump Mr. Metaverse up to go next due to the limitation of time. Since we
Let's do it. I would just say I concur with Shaw.
Cool.
Thanks. Okay, Mr. Metaverse then. Thank you, Future Meme and Avier.
Okay, thank you. And I'll keep it super brief. So just want to call out a couple points here. To the point of like getting physics to work and then adopting it. And I love that statement of like, we'll just do what everyone else does. That's what we already do in software, right? Look at what software as a service has done for software. At first, everyone was doing everything, and most people were only, and the amount of work was half of what it is, right? Because things hadn't been thought of yet. We have to remain flexible and understand that we're not going to think of every single thing first. And as better things come along, we're going to adopt them either way. In fact, many of those things are going to come from people who aren't even in this chat yet. And I wouldn't be surprised if many of those innovations come from people who aren't even interested in VR yet, right? Like we're creating a movement and we're pulling people in, and new adaptations and innovations are going to come from that. So I think that that's great. But I do want to also say, like, we're not talking about coming up with a universal inventory system and everyone adopts it. That's taking power away from story writers and game creators, right? People like, it's possible that like a universal inventory system might not fit for that game or for that experience or for that world. And we want to make sure that we don't shame people for not using these. Whereas but we want to make sure that it's available for folks to use. It should always be an option is kind of my biggest point. And the big thing is like, I think where this kind of like stemmed from, this is my last point actually, is the amount of times I've gone online on Twitter or LinkedIn in the past 8 years to the point of my mental health collapsing and self-sabotaging and shutting down startups that I've had because this is all I've wanted. And every time I would come to online and make a tweet or a post and try to find developers like you to come help me build this thing, the answers I would get were, "We've already built that. We've already built that. Walls up. You're not in our table. Why don't you just use our thing?" Right? So those people aren't wrong. We have to meet those people where they are as well. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for bricolage here to assemble things, but we want to make sure that it's not just we already built that. Like, no, it's great. That's awesome that you built that. That's amazing. Are you going to adopt this open standard where your users can have the same inventory they have in our world? Oh, you're not? Okay. No shame on you for that if it doesn't fit. But if it does, awesome. So I want to make sure I call out that theme and the importance of that theme because yes, it's about the user, but we don't want to shame people for not using any of the standards that we might come up with.
Awesome. Were we gonna do future meme as well?
I'll just jump in. I'm gonna make this so quick. Yeah, I agree with Shaw. There's so many big problems in just sharing assets that we shouldn't even try to tackle that. I think it's just about simplifying the problem, simplifying the language. I mean, even the word metaverse has so many different connotations to it. I mean, I think all we're just saying is building one giant decentralized multiplayer game, and each one of those games will have different engines, different gameplays, but at the end of the day, we need to just share users. And I love Ben's word of passports. I think that's such a great rallying word that kind of mimetically kind of summarizes what we're essentially talking here. And so just sharing users day one, and then sharing economies day two would be my suggestions. And yeah, referring to people that have already done it before and empowering them to be the thought leaders in it, and supporting them is what I'm here for. So thank you guys.
Awesome. Well, this is an awesome discussion. I would love to continue this longer, but I do want to be respectful of people's time. In the next around 30 minutes or so, it'd be great if we could come up with a sort of way to keep these conversations going, and yeah, like kind of decide how we want to self-organize a little bit. There's going to be probably a lot of opinions on here. If you could use the Discord chat to post your preferred ways of communicating, that'd be great. Some ideas that I have are, we're probably going to want a Discord, sorry, a Discord for just this subject, I think. I'm fine with doing that here, but it would be nice if the Discord were to share the name of the standards that we're working on, I guess. I also think that we're probably gonna want a, oh yeah, do not make a Discord for this. Maybe we should use Matrix, you know? Yeah. But I do think that we probably do need a GitHub organization for discussing more permanent conversations. We can do that in issues and GitHub discussions. We could also do that in a decentralized version of that. I don't know exactly what tools we have at our disposal there.
Yeah, I'd love the idea of using Matrix. I know that you guys have already set that up. I would love to have Angel added into that. And man, I forgot the other thing I wanted to say. It was so important.
So Matrix is a it's a protocol for decentralized chat, and they've created a app that's called Element that's basically like Slack or Discord, but uses the Matrix protocol. We use it at Mozilla, or I used it at Mozilla. Their public chat is at chat.mozilla.org, and you can kind of use that to join any of the Mozilla public channels and talk there. One thing that it's kind of missing is like the sort of tree structure of different rooms. That's being changed right now. That Matrix is making Matrix spaces, so you can actually host like a service.
Is anybody else having trouble hearing?
Oh, sorry about that. But for now, if we use Matrix, we will probably have to split it up into various other channels. That's just how it's structured right now. We'll probably have like one main channel that we do all the general discussion in, and then we can have various channels for different topics, such as, you know, NFTs or identity, stuff like that. Could I get like a general idea? Are people opposed to using GitHub discussions for like a message board or something like that? Is that something that we should run, or what is it called, the discourse forum instead? I've seen lots of those like be started and die. Unfortunately, GitHub I see being used for longer periods of time. I know that it is not 100% on the same page as a lot of the ideas that we're discussing here, but like it's kind of the de facto standard. So, is there any opposition to using GitHub?
Chat
Also,
seems
for
pretty quick,
non-technical people, the GitHub discussions board is, I think, fairly user-friendly for even for people who don't use GitHub on a regular basis. So I hope to see all of you in there as well. Cool. Well, unless we have some strong objections, I'd like to start the GitHub organization. I will send out a link to all of that. And we will try to figure out how we're going to structure the matrix. We'll probably have to have a longer discussion in this Discord while we get all that sort of set up. For other people who have been part of standards bodies, especially early on, what at W3C, at Diff, at any of these other things have you seen be really important in the early stages of these organizations? Like I'm talking code of conduct, all of the different sort of things that we have to come to an agreement on early on. Maybe Dimitri, I know you have some experience with this.
Thanks. So that's a great question. Couple of things. One is, so big plus one to using GitHub Forum as threaded discussion. Hopefully it's friendly enough for non-developers, and developers love it, so it's the best of both worlds. As far as what's helpful to new groups, well, we've covered some of it, which is we need text chat, we need voice chat, and then we need regular calls, even if it's once a month or once every 2 weeks. That helps immensely. It helps. It lets people put the calls on their calendar and not guess, are we meeting this week or not? And lastly, I definitely want to encourage reusing some of the infrastructure. Some of the groups like Decentralized Identity Foundation or even W3C community groups already have, meaning like you start a new community group in either Diff or W3C, and you get a mailing list out of it, but more importantly, you get a community code of conduct already pre-made, and it's a pretty good one. Like I know some of the people who constantly work on it, and like they're really good people. So you get a code of conduct and get the IP protection policy for free. So you get the work of all the W3C lawyers on your side. So definitely recommend that. That's it.
I think, Graver, you have some concerns with using something like W3C. I totally agree with you, Dimitri. I think like we should lean on some of the existing resources out there. I think that we're gonna find ourselves using a lot of the existing standards out there, and it makes sense to just join up with a lot of these groups in different cases. I do think we're gonna need our own community to discuss our specific like use case. It could possibly be a W3C community group. What sort of would be involved in starting that, and then how does membership and all that work going forward? Oh, it's just clicks.
Well, so yeah, I'm not in the queue, but let me jump in. So what's involved differs from group to group. I think both Diff and W3C, it's free to join the group in general. It's free to start a community group, and then it's free to join the community group as well. So it's some forms to fill out. Now, for when the standard gets further and starts a formal working group, then there's more bureaucracy and more paid stuff. But for the kind of thing we have in mind, it's all free.
Quick question to you, Robert and Dmitry. Is there a working group existing that would be like, in this space or in the identity space that would see this as kind of like already, in their purview, especially people who are doing identity?
So the Decentralized Identity Foundation is separate from the W3C, but works on multiple W3C specifications, as far as I understand. I think that's right, Dimitri.
Yeah, exactly. So the two are very friendly towards each other. Decentralized Identity Foundation literally uses W3C's code of conduct and IP protection policy, and they have joint working groups on some subjects. And they're fairly young, fairly low bureaucracy. I think they would be very pleased to have an XR community group there. Robert, are there any XR related community groups in W3C right now?
Yes, there's the
Are they
immersive
worth?
web. The immersive web group is there, and that's where the WebXR community has been meeting for a while. I think that could be an interesting place to start. I can talk to Ada, I believe, is like the chair of that, or any of the other people there. I have some connections through Mozilla, so I can talk that. But yeah, I think that would be interesting. I am a little worried about tying it entirely to XR. I'm of the belief that the metaverse is not only experienced in XR, but I also think that it has a very strong relationship to it. So I think it could be a good place to go.
Not to jump in out of turn, but I think that this is much more of an identity issue and like a decentralized identification issue than it is an XR issue. Like from a programming perspective, we're really just talking about like moving JSON around, and like that's actually going to serve purposes far, far beyond our inventory. That could be like moving Shopify to the spatial web. That could be moving WordPress sites to the spatial web. That could be it could unlock a whole other dimension that we haven't even considered beyond just like my swords or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we need to have some longer discussions with some people at W3C about like what would be the best structure here, but I guess like it's kind of up to us still, as far as I understand. They don't care about this. I don't know. I think there's lots of people involved that would.
I agree that we should definitely talk to a couple of the existing groups, but I also want to make sure we don't overthink this because there's so many choices out there. We got a really good group of both developers and non-developers interested in this. We're fairly clear on which standards we want to develop. Let's set up some regular calls. Let's set up GitHub forum and source control repo, and let's start.
Agreed. Awesome. So I have a survey that I've posted. I can post it again. Feel free to fill out the survey. If you don't want to fill out the survey, but you do want to participate in the meetings, please click on that doodle link at the bottom and fill in your availability. I think I set up the time zones correctly so that you should be able to like fill in something relating to your own time zone. Hopefully it's easy enough to figure out. But there's also the Sunday is on the next page. Just think of this as like it's your standard week. What is your general availability? Don't think of it as just this next week. Yeah, hopefully that'll at least kind of give us a general idea of when we can plan this meeting, because I know like we missed out on the people in Australia. I imagine we're gonna have people from all over the world, so it's gonna be tough to schedule, but we'll try our best.
Yeah, I just want to chime in here really fast. People on the boards are talking about this isn't only an XR thing, and yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think we're just very much future thinkers in here, and I literally think the standards that we develop here, once the world kind of catches up to us and spatial glasses and everything kind of catch up, everybody just how everybody needed mobile websites, they're going to need XR websites. It's like, oh shit, multiplayer's a thing. So yeah, we need to realize the world will be jumping in soon enough, and as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I've got 20 minutes left, but I'm totally fine with calling it here. Is there anything else that anyone would like to say or communicate to everyone else before we stop this meeting?
I'd like to say, just don't be afraid to test things and experiment and ask questions. We don't want to, let's not get shut down by what ifs. Just take note of them and accept that there is a list. If things are unanswered or unknown or feel like they're going to shut us down, add them to the list. And when we're stuck looking for things to do, just go back to that list. And I think if we adopt that from day one, we'll be better off.
One logistical thing that I would say, like there was mention of like starting a Discord and like starting a whole community around it. I would actually advise against that as somebody who's tried to do that and failed. I think what we need ways to talk to each other better. I think like a better way is what Jin has been doing for the last several years, which is just hopping across virtual worlds, hopping across Discords, and actually meeting people where they are, rather than trying to create a new thing with a new quote unquote leadership.
Yeah, I'd love to to meet in different worlds if it's at all feasible. I think that would be amazing.
I think that was really cool. Like I've came to a couple of the M3 meetups, and like it was really awesome to be able to do that. As we experienced today, there can be some technical difficulties with that, so we do have to like kind of vet these platforms for
Yeah,
the crowd
I think
size.
we've,
but we
I
totally
think we've
should
proven
do
that it
that. I
works.
think. I think that we'll have to like schedule a set meeting for standards in a set place and time, probably in a less immersive form of communication for the time being. But we could have meetups in these different spaces where we're not necessarily talking about specifications or meta issues about the organizations. Yeah, I think that would be a good compromise there.
How has Jin been doing that? Like, it would be great if we, the power of numbers to be able to say like, hey guys, we're all gonna go to this next place and this next meetup, and that way, just be able to communicate with people and see if we can create a mass.
How can we get other standard groups involved that aren't part of this particular discussion at this time? I think we're friends with some people from the VRM consortium. Quite a few of them are Japanese primary speakers, but I've heard the words VRM being thrown about a few times. It'd be good to get them involved somehow.
Yeah, it feels like there hasn't been enough discussions on some of the sort of asset interchange formats that would be necessary for something like this.
So I can speak to that in terms of how to get other existing groups involved. Once we pick our very basic infrastructure, weekly or biweekly call times, which mailing list we're using, most other standards groups are very outreach and community oriented. And what usually happens is you come and present to the group on one of their calls, and they come and present to you. So the cross-pollination part is easy once we have a group going.
And for the asset interchange format, like I worked on the GLTF working group for a while, so I've pretty good relationships with everyone there. And I have spoken with some of the people in the VRM community in the past, so that's also a possibility too. I think they're working on a really, really great avatar standard there. So
On the side of
This would probably be a bit of an unconventional answer, but if we're looking for interoperability and like asset interchange, I would look into the crypto space. I think there's probably nobody in the world who's done more work than like CryptoVoxels and Decentraland, like working on these problems at a practical level. Just using crypto to make sure that things that work in one world work in another world.
I think that in most projects they are using GLTF or VRM.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a lot of other things that go into that besides just the actual data formats you're using, like storage. What does identity mean? How do you transfer things?
Right. Yep.
There's
I think
different groups.
I have
we need to. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go for it. Go for it.
I have a potentially naive question. What would be the downside of using this Discord that we're on right now?
I think we totally could. I think it's up to Mr. Metaverse and the community there. I am a little. I would think of it as like a temporary thing, honestly, just because I think that we should have a dedicated Discord or just communication channel for this, but I don't know.
My opinion is like, unless it's somebody's full-time job to be paid to like moderate these kinds of things, eventually people burn out. Like this is really hard work to do this stuff. So if like the Angel XR team wants to pony up the people and like be on the hook for like maintaining all this stuff, like I think that's cool. I think I've never seen that work, and I've personally failed at doing that as well. Just trying to organize a Discord myself is just like a really huge responsibility, which is why I really like Jin's ideas around just actually moving around and yeah, kind of like loosening up the connections and like making more of them.
Yeah, happy to. So this Discord and Angel itself was founded to do exactly what we're doing right now. But like, this isn't Angel is not meant to be the only like channel. So like, I love the idea of having like an OMI section in multiple Discords. Maybe I don't know if that gets disorganized, but I think that the GitHub idea was a solid idea. I think that that's something that like people who write documentation and standards are really comfortable using as well. So could help us out in the long run. You can use this at your service. The only hiccup I have is I won't rename this Discord. That would be a disservice to our people who are. And again, we don't have a metaverse that we've built. We are a community built to help you guys. So if we want to create a separate Discord, no one's going to hurt my feelings. We can make a new one. I've already set up a new organization called OMI that is not under the Angel ownership. It's a straight up its own organization. I need help setting that up. And then to answer that last part, yeah, that's why we're here. We are happy to moderate and all that, but thank you for calling out the level of effort. Everyone on my team has another day job as well, so I think it's bigger than just us to moderate. But just so you know, like that's what we signed up for, is to moderate where necessary. We have agile coaches and scrum masters and product managers and a lot of discovery people. So workshopping and finding common ground and keeping us all organized is definitely what we want to provide everyone. But again, you can't hurt my feelings or anything like that. If we travel to other servers, I would love that.
I've got a bit of an idea.
Go ahead.
It might be that we want to have, you know, a sort
I just
of.
want to agree with the traveling to other servers, just because that's our goal. You know, eventually, it's like right now those are servers, but we should kind of mimetically. That's what our goal is to be able to travel around, take our passports and avatars everywhere. And I think as soon as people can start adopting this framework, we'll need to play test it every week or every 2 weeks, and so that's a good mimetic kind of framework to kind of go with.
We should bring back the stack if we're going to interrupt. Who was speaking previously?
That was me.
Go ahead.
Anyway, I was thinking that we should probably have a GitHub, either GitHub repository organization for OMI stuff, right? If anyone has a particular new discussion topic, they can make a GitHub issue for it, and then at the next meeting you can actually talk about it. But in the Discord you sort of have a informal conversation about things, so it sort of separates it into what do we want to make a big issue and what are we just pondering about, right? You know, and so then you could have a bunch of different, you know, meetings or whatever everywhere, but ultimately they would all link right back to the GitHub for, you know, what do we discuss. So I feel like that sort of provides the adequate need for decentralization and, you know, where you discuss things, and centralization and where do you look for things to discuss, right?
Yep. I'm moderating a stack if anybody wants us to speak, or just say in the chat in general that you want to speak. I think that'll help us. Would anybody like to speak?
Hello. Just on any topic. Because I missed the early part of the conversation, but yeah, what's up? Sorry.
Sorry, we have about 10 minutes left until I want to call this meeting. But I want to get clarity on what we're talking about as far as the real-time communication channel still. I think Jen is next anyways. So Jen, do you want to go into detail a little bit with how that would work? I'm all for moving to different places, but we need to have a singular place to kind of talk in real time.
Yeah. So we can post this in GitHub as a proposal or part of the discussions, but I think that, you know, I know a couple communities that have been talking about metaverse field trips and actually wanting to make this into a whole thing as well. Like there's I've done offsites for whole companies that basically, you know, buy their entire company a headset and take a trip into the metaverse. But in general, like we need these different virtual worlds, like talk to each other. And this group, you know, is in a way like platform agnostic because it's more about standards. So, but Discord is the way that we can all keep communication because a lot of these have like positional audio and whatnot. So we could coordinate and stay connected on Discord as we do these field trips that get planned on GitHub. That's what I'm thinking. And create, you know, content that makes our goals like really cool and appealing to the public. Because, you know, something that you mentioned really early in the chat is like, you know, it's going to be a failure if we don't get adoption of these types of what we're actually building. And we have to make it cool, not just about the tech, but about like what the users, like the value they get out of it. About the story.
If you guys don't mind, I would also like to speak on this. I think that the solution is maybe a practical one where, like, literally, if we just made a Discord bot that could transfer bits of JSON, we could hack together a prototype between any of our respective virtual worlds. Today, there's already a HubSpot, there's already a Webverse bot. This would not be hard to transfer avatars. So I think that like let's not do that. Obviously, let's have some more conversations first. But I don't think that it's too far fetched to that like starting with the networked idea generally of like a matrix, getting something like just running forward and trying to get a matrix thing set up between the different servers so that there's one channel in all of our servers where if you type, it just appears in all of them and propagates kind of universally. To me, that sounds like a really interesting foundation for it. I do think that if we're gonna do traditional stuff, we have to be aware that like we kind of need to be Switzerland, not just for us, but for everybody who comes to this. You know, there needs to be sort of like a level of peermanship, like a quality to the conversation that can be kind of awkward sometimes when people are like, well, who's this Angel XR? I don't know. Who's this XR Engine? I don't know. You know, like, yeah, we're all free open source projects, but we're also in a way, you know, like still bits of mind share and things that require thought. And so I'm pro Switzerland. I'm open to a new Discord, but I think the best thing would be the Matrix Bridge. And then from there, just coordinating. And I think if we really want to dog food this and live this for real, we're already in the metaverse. This is the metaverse. There's like 20 people on this right now. So let's just do it and live it.
I also think just the fact that this was a successful meeting proves that we don't actually need a high-tech solution. Like somebody can just tweet something, meet here, and then we do.
Yeah, I think so. Dimitri, you're next.
So I wanted to make a concrete proposal. So let's pick a GitHub org that we're bootstrapping this on. Let's create an issue to choose a text platform, whether it is Matrix or a Discord interop bot or whatever, and set up calls. So somebody post the link to the GitHub org that we're starting on. It's not going to have to be the final GitHub org. You can always rename, reconvene, or whatever. But let's pick one that we're bootstrapping from.
Yep, I think Mr. Metaverse posted one already, and I think we can use that. I'll help you set that up.
Thank you.
And then as far as the Matrix bridge goes, we'll continue to use this Discord in the meantime until we get that set up. But I think that really solves a lot of the issues. I think that we can agree to like bridge all these different Discords. So for people who aren't familiar with this, it basically means like there will be a channel in the Discord of your choosing that you can basically go and type and chat, and it will go to this Discord channel, or sorry, this Matrix channel, and you could basically be a member of any of these sorts of Discords, or you could use it directly in Element, which is Matrix client. We can post all the details on what you kind of need to know in order to join, but it should be I promise it will be very straightforward for anyone who's already joined a Discord like this. You shouldn't have any issues getting into it. And then that gives us our Switzerland. I think that's a great idea. I think that's awesome. But for now, all the communication is going to go through this Discord for the time being. I think what was said earlier about the moderation task, it's so true. I've watched Elgin McLaren watch. I've seen her moderate our Hub's Discord, and it's just a lot. So I thank all of you for volunteering to help moderate this.
One thing from me, I am at your service. I think we all are, but I am at your service. If you just want someone to just talk to, gab at, get opinions, if you want a product opinion, if you want someone who's not a developer to ask questions, you cannot bother me. Please ping me if I'm available. It's at the very tippy top of my priority list. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Sorry, who's talking? I don't have icon.
This is Jesse, Mr. Metaverse, which is weird to actually say. Yeah, Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Metaverse.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Well, I think we're gonna call it there. I will talk to all of you in Discord, and we'll get out all of the different details on the GitHub org. Please fill out the survey if you haven't already, especially just the time part. We need to know kind of when people are available so that we can schedule our next meeting. Probably not this next week, but we'll see. I'll tweet out depending, or sorry, I won't just tweet out. I will post it to the Discord and add everyone. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming. This has been amazing. And I hope to see more of you soon.
Thanks everybody.